Hello everyone. So my name is Ankita and I'm pursuing MSc Biotechnology from Christianity College in Bangalore and my guide is Dr. Manikandan. So today I am presenting a topic of on based on molecular markers. I will be talking about three different molecular markers. So first, I'll start off with introduction. So, what is a marker? So, it's an any genetic element which may be locus, allele, or DNA sequence or chromosome feature which can be readily detected by phenotype, cytological, or molecular techniques, and are used to follow a chromosomal segment during genetic analysis. And there are several classical markers, like we know that morphological markers, cytological and biochemical markers. So morphological markers are based on the outer appearance of the in the things, and cytological and biochemical markers are also there. And so basically molecular markers are the DNA markers. So what are DNA markers? It is a gene or a DNA sequence having a known location on a chromosome and is associated with a particular gene or trait, and it refers to any unique DNA sequence which can be used in DNA hybridization. So we know that DNA is hybridized using radio labeled probes, PCR, which is polymerase chain reaction, or restriction mapping experiments to identify that sequence. So these DNA markers, as I already told you, are also known as molecular markers, and they can be identified by a different range of molecular techniques. So these techniques are RFLPs, RAPDs, and AFLPs. So I will be talking about these three different techniques. So first is RFLP, and its name suggests restriction fragment length polymorphism. So as the name suggests, it's the restriction fragment. These fragments are generated by digestion of the fragments with the help of restriction enzymes, and due to the polymorphism or different sizes of the length of the fragments, these technique is used to detect if there is any mutation is there in the individual or the sample which we have taken. So I'll start so what it's a first generation molecular marker, and it's used in molecular biology for the identification of genetic variation in homologous DNA sequences, and it is the first genetic marker which was developed for DNA fingerprinting. As we all know that DNA fingerprinting is based on variable number of tandem repeats, and this is the first marker which was developed, and it is based on hybridization. Like hybridization is like when we do southern blotting and then we hybridize those bands which are obtained on the nitrocellulose membrane with the radio label probes. So that is hybridization. Then on which principle this RFLP is based? It exploits the variation in the restriction sites of the DNA in different individual. The variation in the length is due to the difference in the VNTR, which is the variable number of tandem repeats, when DNA samples are digested with specific restriction endonucleases like ECOR1. As here is a picture, as you can see that there is a sample A and sample B, and if it is digested with like there is the ECOR1 digestion site which is GAATTC. Like if we incubate these strands with this DNA with ECOR1, then this site will be cut by ECOR1 and two fragments will be generated. But if there is a mutation, then there won't be any cleavage and there is only single fragment. So what happens is that it yields different DNA profiles. As I told, that different fragments are generated which are unique to each individual. Genetic variation among these organisms is detected by restriction homologous DNA with specific restriction enzyme, as I already told you, and analysis of the fragment length polymorphism. Like when these fragments are generated, these are visualized on the gel electrophoresis, and further blotting is done. So I'll go with the steps. So first is isolation of DNA. Like as we all know that normal process of DNA isolation either from any species. Then what is done? Then the DNA is then incubated with restriction enzymes, and that is restriction endonuclease digestion is done. Then there is separation of the restriction fragments. Like after the fragments are generated, then these fragments are separated on agarose gel. Then after the agarose gel is run, after that these double strands are denatured. Like we need single stranded DNA so that radio label probes can bind to them. So after denaturation, we for denaturation we dip in sodium hydroxide solution. Then after denaturation, we transfer these strands to nitrocellulose membrane or nylon membrane. Mostly nylon membranes are used now. Then this process is called southern blotting. We know that the southern blotting is technique is used to transfer these strands to a membrane, so that we can then these are fixed. Then hybridization is done with radio labeled probes, and when after that the hybridization is done, then they are visualized on the X-ray film, that is also called autoradiography. So uh, these are the steps. And then after there are, as we all know, that there are some pros and cons for any technique. So it has high reproducibility, it is a co-dominant marker, and it is a reliable marker in breeding analysis. Why it is co-dominant, I will explain that. Like there is a like here is homozygous dominant allele, homozygous recessive allele, and it's a heterozygous allele. Suppose a person is having a pro binding sequence in this place, and another person having in this place, but due to mutation one site is missing, so it will generate a bigger fragment. So it will be present at towards the well, and it will this homozygous allele, sorry, recessive allele will produce a smaller fragment, so it will be away from the well. And if that person is heterozygous, then two bands will be formed. So this is the most important feature of RFLP, that it is co-dominant. And what are the cons? That it requires a prior knowledge of the DNA sequence, and it requires large amount of DNA, because and it's expensive because radio level probes are expensive, it's time consuming, and it's labor intensive. So after this first generation marker, some applications are also there. Like normally it's used in genome mapping, diversity and phylogenetic studies, breeding and marker assisted selection, genetic disease analysis, and genetic typing. So after this first generation marker, second generation marker, as we all know that we can say, came that random amplification of polymorphic DNA, which is RAPD. We call it rapid. So it's random amplification, as the name suggests. Random amplification, like the PCR must be used because amplification is there, but the amplification is randomly done. Like there is no specific primers of the DNA. So first I'll go with a brief other principle, and as I told, that it's PCR based, and it's the based on the principle that the random amplification of multiple locations of the target DNA template is done by using small short oligonucleotide primers with arbitrary sequence, and the primers are 10 nucleotides long, and that's thus they are called deca oligonucleotides. Primers are artificial synthesized without the prior sequence knowledge, as these are the random primers. So somewhere they can bind to the sequence in the DNA sample. So no prior knowledge of the DNA is required. Then results, it results in relatively variable DNA sequences between different species, which occurs due to mutation or rearrangements, either at or in between the primer binding sites. Rapid products can be cloned, sequenced, and converted to other types of markers like SCAR and SNP. So here is a small depiction, like there is a DNA template A and B. If primers bind randomly, then here two fragments are generated, and here only one fragment is generated because the primers bind to only this site. So after they bind, they can be run on gel electrophoresis. So these are the steps. First, as a normal extraction of the DNA, then it's a normal PCR, that denaturation is done, then annealing with the primers is done. So after this annealing is done, amplification of the multiple locations of the target DNA using the randomly chosen primers is done. And after the extension of the primers, and after the whole amplification, gel electrophoresis is used to run the amplified PCR products. Then after this gel electrophoresis is done, staining is done with ethidium bromide, and then it is identified under the UV. As a result of the variation in the primer annealing, different fragments with different lengths are generated. Like there are different fragments having different lengths. I have depicted here, like there can be three possibilities. First is nucleotide deletion, smaller band can be obtained. So if there is a deletion in the nucleotide, then a smaller band is obtained. Like nucleotide is removed, the heaviness is a little bit reduced, so a smaller band is obtained. Then nucleotide insertion, a heavier band is obtained, and if a primers fail to bind somewhere, then there will be no band obtained. So these banding patterns on the gels are different among different individuals and species. So after this, as I told that there are some pros and cons. So the pros is that there is no DNA probes uh, and sequence information. Like there is no requirement for the prior knowledge of the probes and the sequence, DNA sequence. Then it involves no blotting and hybridization and quick, and it requires only 10 nanogram of DNA because only PCR has to be done, so small amount it works all very well. Then procedure can be automated and high number of fragments are generated. Arbitrary primers are easily purchased. Cons is that it's a dominant marker, like it can't distinguish between the homozygous and heterozygous individuals. It has low reproducibility, and then mismatches between the primer and the template may result in total absence of the PCR product. So it's difficult to interpret sometimes. So it also has some applications, like it enables the detection of genetic variation, and then it's applied in different studies like gene mapping, DNA fingerprinting, and all those things. Then it used for many purposes, like genetic identification of genetic variability, like that. And there are some variants of RAPD which are used nowadays, that is APPCR, DAF, and MAP. And like there are the number of nucleotides, like in RAPD there are 10 oligonucleotides, but here there is some changes in the number of nucleotides. Like, that's it for RAPD. Then third one is AFLP. Like this one is a second generation, um, because there are some cons in those first two techniques. So yeah, amplified fragment length polymorphism. So this technique is based on the principle of both RFLP and RAPD. So second generation molecular technique used for DNA fingerprinting. So it's a second generation technique, and this one is used for DNA fingerprinting mostly. Principle is that it involves the mapping basics. As I told, that it uses the restriction digestion of RFLP and PCR amplification of RAPD also. And molecular genetic polymorphism identified the presence of or absence of DNA fragment. So here is a simple depiction that the DNA, it is cut by two different restriction enzymes. Um, First is frequent one is frequent cutter, and one is a rare cutter. Then fragments are generated, then adapters are ligated, then two types of PCR cycles are run. First is the pre-selective amplification, which has one extra base with the primer, and second is the selective amplification, which has three extra base with the primer, so that there is a selection, or the binding of the primers is quite selective, and the results which are, or the products which are generated, are have a high reproducibility. So I'll directly go to the steps. So first, what is done? There is a digestion of the genomic DNA, which is done by, as I told, that two cutters are used. First is a rare cutter, which is ECOR1 or PST1 is used. Frequent cutter like MSC1 or TAC1 is used. So these are the restriction sites. So when after they cut the fragments, then adapter ligation is done to generate the target sites for primer annealing. When the adapter is ligated, then the primers come and bind. So first is the pre-amplification. So what happens is that the DNA fragments are amplified with two AFLP primers, and each having one selective nucleotide. Like as you can see in this picture, like the amplification with ECOR1 primer plus there is one extra nucleotide base, and MSC1 primer plus one extra nucleotide base. Then selective amplification is carried out after these primers bind. Then selective PCR is carried out. Here with the primer, three extra bases are there. So these primers, when they bind, then they give more selectivity to the PCR product. So after the separation and detection, and after all this amplification, analysis is done by separation and detection of the amplified fragments by using denaturing polyacrylamide gel electrophoresis and silver staining respectively. So after these are the steps, then as I told that there are some pros and cons. So high genomic abundance, it's the most it has high reproducibility, which is the most important feature of AFLP, and generation of many informative bands per reaction is there. And cons is that there is need for purified and high molecular weight of DNA. And yes, it's a dominant marker. It can't distinguish between uh, heterozygous and homozygous species. And bands are not always independent, but there are new new inventions are still going on. And thus it has some many applications, like as I told, DNA fingerprinting, then studies, phylogenetic studies, diversity in plants, and high resolution genetic maps and all those things. So finally, conclusion, I have just kept the chart which distinguishes all these three. Mostly is that the inheritance is co-dominant only in RFLP, but dominant in both these rapid and AFLP. Then AFLIP, which we call AFLP as AFLIP, and then reproducibility is high, and but it's in RFLP and AFLP it's high. And then restriction digestion, it's required in RFLP and also in AFLP, and the amount of DNA is high in RFLP, but it's low in RAPD. So this much about the conclusion. Thank you, and these are my references. Thank you.